Now we'll just do a quick gradebook mock-up of student test scores. There are a couple of interesting tools in Excel. One of them is autofill. If you type student and you give them a number, of course this would mean that your students would be numbered not by last name, first name. You can actually autofill by grabbing the right corner and dragging down. And you suddenly have, now unfortunately you can't see this, so I'm going to go to the bar at the top cell and drag it a little further so you can see the numbers. It just auto-filled your numbers. Same thing can be done up above. If you autofill and have your numbers in order, you grab that right and you can have 4 test scores. Ordinarily, of course, you'd put students' names, but it's just kind of interesting to see. Now, if we just do a few random percentages on student test scores, and I'm just typing whatever comes, and we'll mock up a few charts, and we'll also do some calculations. Luckily, some of these people are improving, and some are not. I'll just do 4 students, and that way we'll be a little quicker. So I'll delete those. So first of all, let's get some averages, and I'll just put an average right here, and it helps to spell it right. I have the cell. Now I'm going to go up to the auto sum, and this time I don't want a total, I want to average. So I'll drag down and I'll see the average is on this quick menu, so I'll go average. Now I'm testing it. I'm going to click on this first cell. I want to average tests 1 through 4, which would be row 2 and columns B through E. Now if you look up here, here is your formula bar, your function equal average in parentheses B2 to E2, and that is what I want. I enter and I have an average. Now here's where autofill starts to be fun. You've got 82 as an average on student 1. If you come to the right and you drag it down, you just got everyone's averages. You could also decide to get averages for each test. And there that A left again. Once again, I'm going to come down and I'm going to grab average, and I'm going to make sure those are the test scores I want averaged. That would be B2 through B5. I look at the formula, it's correct, I enter, and I don't have to do it again. Now you can see how handy this would be if you had a class of 35. You could very quickly find out the average. Now what if I wanted points instead, and these weren't percentages? I could do a sum or a total. Now at this point I'm going to use an auto sum. However, I don't want the average in the calculation, so I'll go test 1 through 4, and I have a sum. We'll pretend those are points, and now I have a sum for all of them. It's important not to include those cells average within when you're trying to get just the tests 1 through 4 totaled. Now the next point would be to make some charts. So first of all, you only chart this, you only include the cells that you want to chart. So I'm going to include just the test scores at this point. I don't want the average, it'll skew my chart. So I just want the test scores, and I'll go to insert chart, and I can either do a column or a bar. It doesn't matter. I'll do a column. I'll just do a very simple column, and that looks right. The series are right. And at this point I will need to give it a title. So these are test scores, and I of course could do more than that. The tests are already labeled, so I don't need anything more. I do still need my legend because I need to figure out who's who. So I'll go to next, and that's about it. Data labels will kind of mess up your chart, so if it's necessary, fine. I usually don't use them. Next, and once again, I could do a new chart, or I could just finish it in here. Now, if by some chance this was messed up in any way, I could resize. odds are that's probably as good as it's going to get. I could do some nice things, however, with the background. For instance, I could right click and format the chart area. At this point, my format area, I might want to have a fill effect. So one of my favorites is to do gradients with two colors. And this particularly works well if you're creating a new chart on an overhead. You can make really nice looking charts and print them out on your overhead. Maybe I don't like the background of just this plot area, so once again I could format that. And there are many ways to fill. Maybe I just want a nice simple blue, or I could also do texture, which oftentimes looks kind of nice in a chart. I don't know, the color and the texture there are a little bit extreme, but nevertheless you can see the options. Now, one thing that's sort of strange on this is the scale. If I right click on Format Axis, if these are percentages, I really want the maximum to be 100. They gave me a little space on there, so I'm going from 0 to 100. I can also right click and I can change the font on those. Say I want those a little smaller, but I want them bold. So there are a lot of ways that you can make changes. The other thing you can do, you can change the color of your bars. Now, these are probably the best colors if you're printing in black and white, but if you are printing on color, you can do some nice things. For instance, if I click once, I get all of the bars. If I click twice on one bar, I just get one bar. And I could come over here and pick a nice blue, and I could go to each one of these and do these as blue, or I can actually go over here to this chart and do blue, and all of them changed. Same thing here. Let's do it this way. From student 2, let's go to red. From student 3, and like I say, this is particularly nice when you're printing in color. You'll be amazed at how impressed people will be with your tech skills when you start putting these on overheads, and it definitely will get you some attention from your principal. So those are your test scores, and that's basically something you can print right from here. Another interesting thing is, what if you made a mistake and this second test on student 2 wasn't a 69, it was a 49. Now watch the chart change. Did you see it? Let's go over here to maybe test 4, and let's change that chart. Let's say his last test was only 83. And watch the chart, and the score would have changed. It's hard to see, but basically you can chart that. You could also chart just your averages on your tests. You can chart whatever cells you want to chart.